Hello friends I made this for. If you clicked on this video, you already know what it is. We are going to be talking about Jupiter, Jupiter's card in the tarot, or where we can interpret that Jupiterian energy. And yeah, let's just get into it. So why Jupiter? Well, it is Sag season, and Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter. So, what is Jupiter? Jupiter is this little planet, or should we say this giant ass ball of gas in the sky. It's the biggest planet in our solar system. And I guess because of that, it is the planet of expansion. So that's a key word that comes up in the Living Wheel, where I get this card specifically. But what is Jupiter? So Jupiter is actually a social planet. We have different planets in our solar system, ones that are considered personal because they change so quickly. We have generational planets because they take so long to change. And we have two planets in between that are known as social planets because they move not so slowly to be generational, but not so quickly they can be called personal. They are social because they show up in, let's say, our social groups. In high school, everyone you graduated with, for the most part, probably had the same Jupiter as you, same Saturn as you. These are social planets because they're reflected in people we're social with, at least mostly in high school. Of course, that can change and does change quite a bit once you get out of those constructs, but Jupiter changes its sign every year, so it takes a full year for Jupiter to really get through that one sign. So chances are, if you were born in 1990, like me, we probably have a similar Jupiter. So that's how we can kind of break it out. So Jupiter is not exclusively your sign, like maybe your Mercury or your Venus or even your Mars. Those are personal planets, so those are going to be very unique to you. However, your Jupiter is unique no matter what anyone might want to tell you. Your Jupiter still is, because your uniqueness will change what house it's in and what degree it's in. And those will, of course, change how Jupiter reflects on you in your chart. So, oh, and also what's sextile, what's conjunct, what is in that same space as your Jupiter. For example, my Jupiter is in Cancer, but it's in the 12th house. And so is my Chiron. So those two things play off each other. So even though this is a social planet and a lot of people from your time, not a whole lot, but at least a good number, are going to share that Jupiter with you, your Jupiter still is unique in its own special way. So don't let anyone take that from you. Anyway, what are some other words I wrote down? Oh yeah, abundance, wisdom, generosity. And one thing I was looking over real quick before I started this video is Earth and Fire Tarot, another astrologer to look into and follow if you're on the Instagram world, has a little snippet about Jupiter where they talk about where Jupiter is kind of where our focus is, so where we check our privilege. It can also be where we focus our stories. So it has, you may or may not know, Jupiter, Zeus, these are kind of similar in the pantheons. They are the same thing, from Roman to Greek, blah, blah, blah. So a big focus for what is important to us can be seen in our Jupiter. Like I said, expansion is kind of the overall big theme. So where are we expanding our abundance, our generosity, giving back to those around us? And actually, as I start this video, and we've gone on for 4 minutes already, this is where I want to get into the tarot card for it, which is actually an interesting one to me. It's probably one that I often get the most annoyed with. So today we're going to get into it, and hopefully I can remove my prejudices about what is Jupiter in the tarot. Well, what is Jupiter in the tarot? I'm about to tell you, silly. But I have 3 cards for us to go through. Our 3 Jupiters and tarots to go through. You know my fucking favorite. Morgan Greer, The Way Home, and Hello. A deck I will never pronounce correctly, so fucking get at me. And of course, I've been bringing this one in, one of my old favorites, and I think it is interesting because it's been really using it in the videos has actually been expanding my view of certain cards quite a bit. So Morgan, Tom Holland, John Holland, my cat's meow. Rude. John Holland here to help expand us through the tarot. So, what is this card? What is Jupiter as a card? Well, let's start with this one because this one is actually probably one of the more classic depictions. It is the Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune in this card looks like this. We see that there's the Jupiter image right there, the little glyph. And this is kind of a more classic / not classic version of this card. So what do I mean? This is kind of what a lot of Wheel of Fortunes will look like. It will have a wheel similar to this with a lot of animals around it. Of course, this one has a unicorn, which is unusual, a turtle, an eyeball of some sort of, probably a lion in there. There's a hand involved, which not every deck has the hand. You'll have to just excuse her. She's sad because I won't let her in here. Because I'm filming. This is art. And we see this wheel is kind of turning. There's a lot of animals and even like some mushrooms in here. So what is the invitation that we're kind of getting here? The invitation is kind of dark in this deck, honestly, which I kind of like because it makes sense. It makes sense because to me, and this is a personal thing, to me the Wheel of Fortune and Death are actually pretty hand in hand, pretty similar, because ultimately these are both cards that are about the same thing. These are both cards that talk about the constant flux and flow of change. So it's not always good, right? This hand is almost like the hand of God. You're kind of having to, and what was the phrase I found that really summed it up? Surrender to change. Just like death, right? Surrender. Just let it go. It's going to happen anyway. Let it go or be dragged. And a lot of cards, this is like, you know, really positive, and of course, why wouldn't it be? But the thing about the Wheel of Fortune, and this is what I really like about the Morgan Greer deck in its depiction, we see the hand again in that one, but in this one, it's very much like there's no control here. It simply is the hand that allows all to flow. So there's this feeling of God here. There's the surrender of this person below. And so let's get into the Morgan Greer, which is fucking amazing. It's the flux and flow, right? You can be on top and you can fall just as easily from grace. I love it. So that kind of helps us understand the Wheel of Fortune, this expansion as a constant wave, right? It's not just you're at the top of the wheel at any one point forever. It's the wheel is always turning, and it's not your control. This really stands out to me because it reflects the idea of, my phrase for this card is God's plan. You have a plan, and then universe, spirit, Allah, God, whatever you want to call it, is going to do whatever they want to do, or it wants to do, and put you where you should be. Depending on how that flow and flux feels. So if we look at it that way and talk about it in the look of Jupiter, yes, there's this expansion, but check your privilege, right? What did Brady say? It's like an area where you can check Brady, Earth and Fire Tarot, same person. It's a place to check your privilege because it's always changing. The expansion is always in and out, in and out. And it's not something that's ever stagnant, right? Life is not going to really, truly be stagnant. So I love Morgan Greer's interpretation of the wheel because it really, in a lot of decks, you see kind of this stagnant wheel form and there's stuff around it. But what does that really mean? Well, it's not really within your control. So it's a place to grow, it's a place to learn, and it's a place where we can be happy for sure, but it's not about us, right? It's about the ever-present change. So, what does the Way Home Tarot have to say? Well, it's a much more positive look to it. The Wheel of Fortune is a Ferris wheel in the dark, lit up. And of course, we can look at it still as that constant change, but we're eventually, we're not destined to just stay at this bottom part. We'll see the stars. We'll get up there. And so the Wheel of Fortune becomes an invitation of hope. It is something that is positive. It's not as unwelcome as something like death, because of course death is looked at as, ooh, doom and gloom. But it's all, what it is it's just the it's the infinite change that's coming. So sometimes we're on top, sometimes we're on the bottom. Sometimes we're uncomfortable and sometimes we're living in excess and abundance. But it's never just one thing, it's change. So this really, it's a more positive look at it. But again, this wheel turns and it turns. So don't sit there thinking you can coast at the top forever. Take that as a place of expansion with the lessons that come from bringing it back down. So that's one way of, those are a few ways of looking at your Jupiter through different decks. Of course, I always encourage you, maybe take out your Wheel of Fortune, meditate with it, journal with it, and see what does this Wheel of Fortune have to share with you. What does your Jupiter have to share with you? Meditate with that, with your Wheel of Fortune out, and really think, okay, how as a social planet does this reflect on me? What house is it in what degree? What's conjunct? What's sextile? What blah, 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 blah. Look into it and kind of think, where's my expansion and where's my wheel of destiny going? Speaking of destiny, we have one more card to look at. And John Holland, sorry, I keep looking at the box that these are in, just to make sure I'm getting it right. And what is this card? Well, Wheel of Fortune is number 10 in the Major Arcana, and that is destiny. So we can look at Jupiter as a certain wheel of destiny as well. The constant flow, the flux, you let it go, you let it take you. You relinquish a certain level of control, right? And that's okay, because when we put our faith in the higher source, we're able to grow, we're able to expand, because we are growing from a place of trust. Trust that the universe has your back, trust that everything will be provided for, and trust that you can believe in yourself and what you're making in this lifetime. So destiny. Destiny as the Wheel of Fortune is really a super positive way. We have the Flower of Life in the background, which is kind of like taking on the wheel. It's something where when we put our faith, it feels very, it's very faith-based, right? You have to just allow change to happen. You have to allow it to take you and allow it to expand what you know. right? So, this is kind of the note to end on, to really, I think, meditate on is, how does the Wheel of Fortune reflect to you this idea of destiny? And how does Jupiter reflect in that idea of expansion and this idea of a social planet where we share it with a lot of people, but it's very unique to us depending on our chart, right? So, I hope all of that made sense. I hope some of that resonated with you. Of course, like I said, journal with this card, journal with some of these themes. Where do we need to check our privilege? Where are we expanding? Where are we being generous and sharing in that abundance? Where are we, what's another word? Where are we growing into our wisdom? Because that's another word for Jupiter, right? It's like some of our wisdom is where we put our faith in destiny, in the higher powers, in our hearts, missions. Yeah. These are some ways to connect with Jupiter. These are some ways to connect with the Wheel of Fortune. And yeah, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Saturday. And keep on being a great, I don't know, awkward ending. Love you, bye.